Mexican drug cartels are expanding their operations and forming alliances with other transnational gangs, and also American street gangs, prison gangs, and Chinese money laundering companies. In today's video, I'll share the countries the Mexican cartel has the strongest presence in with you, so maybe stay tuned to the end of the video so I can tell you which countries to avoid if you're traveling. And without any further ado, let's dive right in. According to the Mexican Attorney General's office, Mexico's drug cartels now have a presence in 16 Western Hemisphere countries, indicating that these criminal organizations have broadened their operations so that they can reduce risks. According to El Universal, the Sinaloa cartel has the most significant presence in the Western Hemisphere, with contacts in 13 countries, according to the Attorney General's office report. Except for Nicaragua and Panama, this practically covers all of Central America. In addition, the Sinaloans have ties to the United States, Canada, and 6 South American countries: Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, and Chile. According to the PGR, the Zetas and Gulf Cartel operate in 9 countries. The other cartels have more of a restricted reach. According to the PGR assessment, the Juarez cartel has a presence in the United States and has also formed agreements with 5 other nations. Only the United States and Peru are home to the Tijuana cartel. The Familia Michoacana has ties to the United States, Colombia, and Guatemala, but the Knights Templar, Caballeros Templarios, have exclusive links to the United States. The PGR's claims highlights the question of how to define cartel existence within a country. The Zetas have a connection to Brazil, according to El Universal. In contrast, the damaged Beltran Leyva organization still has a network in 5 countries, including numerous Central American nations and the United States. While the Mexican cartels have commercial ties throughout the Western Hemisphere, the El Universal study does not always distinguish between a cartel's actual armed presence inside of a country and more indirect economic contacts. Rather than focusing on the number of nations where the Mexican drug gangs operate, it's actually worth considering why it's in the cartel's best interest to expand in particular places. For one thing, the PGR research enforces Central America's prominence as a drug trafficking transit zone. All of the central cartels, except for the Tijuana cartel and the Knights Templar, are believed to have formed ties there. The fact that Mexican organized crime has chosen to diversify its production and distribution networks outside of Mexico and far outside of Mexico, not just for traditional drug imports like cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, but also for methamphetamine, which suggests that this is a strategy to reduce threats from law enforcement. See, groups like the Sinaloa cartel have chosen more hospitable regions to base their operations by exporting cocaine through Honduras or precursor chemicals from Argentina. Furthermore, the multinational character of the company makes it a lot more difficult for single-country law enforcement to track, unfortunately. The Sinaloa cartel's size, in particular, reflects the cartel's focus on innovation and its ongoing efforts to create new markets for illicit substances. In Australia, the Sinaloa cartel is known to have created distribution networks. The Sinaloa cartel has also attempted but failed to establish a presence in Paraguay. So, where do Mexican cartel have their most robust presence in outside of Mexico? Well, that would be the United States. Mexican drug cartels continue to increase their dominance across large swaths of the United States, particularly in Southern California, and also in the Northeast and the southern border. The Sinaloa, Juarez, Jalisco New Generation, Gulf cartels, and the Beltran Leyva organization are the 6 cartels that the DEA believes have the most drug trafficking impact in the United States. However, the relative power in each of these groups appears to have moved over the last year. In the upper Midwest and Northeast, the Zetas' presence has dwindled. The Gulf cartel, like the Zetas, has been driven by infighting and division, but it still operates along the Gulf Coast and in portions of the Northeast. Since ceding control of Ciudad Juarez to the Sinaloa cartel last year, the Juarez cartel has been losing territory in the Midwest and the Northeast while remaining active in West Texas. And also it appears to be reasserting itself in Ciudad Juarez. The Beltran Leyva organization, which is a Sinaloa cartel partner, split off in the late 2000s, and they're active across the United States, all the way from Texas and the Gulf Coast to the Rust Belt in Southern California. In Mexico, the BLO has fragmented into groups that clashed very frequently. Even though they're all recognized as part of the same broad organization, lots of infighting. The Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel are among the most dominant cartels in Mexico, with the Sinaloa cartel having a much stronger foothold in the United States. Sinaloa appears to have benefited from the Knights Templar's decline in the United States, strengthening its already strong foothold in the Pacific Northwest, and also in California and the Northeast, while losing its figurehead and devolving into infighting in Mexico. The CJNG, who arose from a Sinaloa cartel offshoot, looks to have spread across the United States, including Southern California, South Florida, and the Northeast. Mexican cartels control the entire supply network that connects the Andes and Mexico to locations in the United States and controls the entire wholesale market there. Nevertheless, their influence over retail sales does appear limited. The DEA report stated that US-based Mexican transnational criminal organization members generally coordinate the transportation and distribution of bulk wholesale quantities of illicit drugs to US markets, while retail-level distribution is mainly handled by smaller local groups and street gangs not directly affiliated with Mexican TCOs. Cartel operators and their gang rivals generally have linguistic or ethnic backgrounds, while the latter are frequently U.S. citizens. Sinaloa Cartel aren't the only Mexican cartel seeking a stronger presence in other countries. Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación (CJNG) is also becoming very dominant in other countries. By forming alliances, threatening authorities, and hijacking drug routes, Mexico's brutal Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación extends its criminal empire south into Central and South America. CJNG began operations in the central Mexican state of Jalisco and has since expanded to practically every state in Mexico, as well as Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Colombia. Oh, and I forgot, Chile. U.S. officials have classified Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación as Mexico's best-armed criminal organization and, quote-unquote, one of the most dangerous transnational criminal groups in the world. The organization is attempting to operate in the United States through some local gangs, according to the U.S. authorities, but CJNG wants to control the drug routes and supply chain throughout Latin America. CJNG is attempting to build operations inside Chile for the large-scale manufacturing of high-concentration marijuana, according to a new report from Chile Attorney General's office anyways. At a recent press conference, Chilean Attorney General George Abbott addressed the matter, saying that Chile has evolved from a transit country for drugs heading north to a country where very well-known Mexican cartels are looking to settle. The cartel's growing operations are also causing a lot of concern in Guatemala, where members reportedly threatened Guatemalan National Police for stealing, quote-unquote, a shipment of drugs belonging to CJNG's boss, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho, for whom U.S. officials are actually offering $5 million. A member of the Nicaraguan military also confirmed the presence of Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación in Honduras and Nicaragua. The military member, who didn't want to be identified because they didn't have permission to speak to the media, said that they have uncovered operations and training camps mainly around the Nicaraguan and Honduran borders. The military member said, the CJNG widely uses the Fonseca Gulf to operate, but also uses Puerto Lempira and Honduras and Corinto, Puerto Sandino, and the Caribbean side of Nicaragua. The Sinaloa cartel has used a stronghold of ports in Nicaragua, but lately we have found many operations and arrested some of them, which leads us to think that they now have more control over drug trafficking than the Sinaloas. According to the operative, the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación is allied with several gangs involved in shipping cocaine to Europe. The Sinaloa cartel and now Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación are posing new threats to all regions, according to Sergio Guzman, director of the Colombia Risk Analysis, which is a Colombia-based security and risk analysis firm. Guzman said, these Mexican organizations used to be partners with other criminal organizations in South and Central America, but during the past few years, they've been playing a more active role, to the point where they're now making decisions in a lot of other countries. Since the late 1990s, when major Colombian cartels like the Medellin and the Cali cartels fell from power, Mexican criminal organizations have had a rising influence in Colombia. CJNG's exponential growth is a direct threat to all of Latin America and should be addressed by all countries involved, Guzman said. On which he went further to say, I see a dangerous gap in collaboration between countries where the criminal enterprises operate. There is no coordination. And that's what these groups have been exploiting to their benefit. Mexican cartels also have a strong influence in Europe. Mexican drug cartels have helped supply Europe over $10 billion in their annual cocaine habit. Still, police organizations in Europe admit that they have little awareness of how these well-organized and well-financed operations operate. The absolute most in-depth look we've gotten yet into how Mexico's top drug traffickers, the Sinaloa cartel, do business in Europe has come from a recent Italian police probe codenamed Operation HALCON. When Europe was being absolutely swamped with cocaine from Latin America, Operation HALCON began in early 2019. The Sinaloa cartel, the world's largest cocaine trafficking organization with activities in more than 50 countries, was looking for fresh ways into Italy to increase its European footprint. Mexican cartels had already begun selling synthetic drugs like methamphetamine across Europe, but Colombian, Albanian, and Italian organized crime have long dominated the continent's cocaine trade, so step aside, Mexico. Most narcotics come into Europe by ship, mainly to large ports with easy access to other major cities. The Sinaloa cartel has used a variety of ways to transport their drugs, which involved private jets flying into minor airports in southern Italy and then transshipping the drugs into other countries' regions. The cartel relies on its European members to effectively distribute the drugs to various locations around Italy. Also, the Sinaloa cartel is believed to be the world's biggest supplier of cocaine and ice to Australia. Methamphetamine, known as ice, is Australia's most commonly ingested narcotic. It far surpasses cocaine, heroin, and MDMA. In 2020, Australian federal police discovered a laboratory that had become a key development center for the activities of Mexico's most notorious drug cartels, including the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, if you forgot. The location near Culiacan was surrounded by rural farms lined with creeks and other water sources, and the facility was hidden under tropical forest-like scrub. It took a long, difficult 45-minute journey along a gravel road to get to the lab. So Mexico is thought to be the source of a third of the methamphetamine taken in Australia. Detective Superintendent Jensen said, "Certainly the priority for us is the methamphetamine coming out of Mexico, supplying the Australian market. The lab near Culiacan was estimated to produce about 20 tons of meth per month. Compare that to Australia's wastewater analysis, and that suggests Australians use about 10 tons of meth per year. That's just one lab of many dozens we're seeing up that way." The foundation of the AFP Mexico City station, which Detective Superintendent Jensen has held since its opening in 2017, was spurred by Australia's demand for ice and the expanding supply from Mexico. While commercial shipping transports the majority of methamphetamine in Australia, there's actually no direct shipment between Mexico and Australia. As a result, illicit narcotics will always find their way to local beaches through Asia or the United States, as was the case with 1.7 tons captured in California in January of 2020. Which is it for today's video. So with that being said, I thank you for your ears and your eyes, and I'll see you later.